Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sasha, and I actually want to start a new series in regard since I'll be doing a lot of book reviews, but this one will be a little bit different. I'm actually going to be reading a particular book. This is a book I picked up at Barnes and Noble's a few weeks ago, and I had been kind of playing around with when I wanted to make this video, and so I've decided to again, read a particular book to you guys and post it once a week. And this book is called The World's Worst Serial Killers, Shocking Crimes, and Unspeakable Murders. Just a little backstory about me. I have always been really heavy into true crime, understanding that. I even went and got a particular degree that studied criminals, their crimes, all of that. I wanted to work in crime scene investigation. I even wanted to be a medical examiner or a coroner at one point in time. Things, of course, kind of shifted in my life. And then we all know the panorama, since you really can't say the word, kind of swept through here. And a lot of things just kind of changed in my life, shifted. And so I kind of got away from that. But I still do find myself watching certain shows and reading books about serial killers, their crimes, and all of that. And so what I want to do is I'm actually, instead of just kind of talking about it, I am going to read this to you. I will not read it to you, again, all in full. And this one, it's about different serial killers. So each chapter is a completely different person. And that's kind of what I liked about it, which is what brought me to want to do this series. And I will, start there. So the first section is Terrors of the Past, and that's the one that we're going to be starting on. I'll more than likely only read about 2 at a time. I am going to read the introduction, so I may only end up reading 1. It just kind of depends on the length of the video, or I may make a separate video with just talking about the criminal, so I'll just kind of see. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to read the introduction. Murder fascinates us all, whether it is the gentle slaughter written into existence by Agatha Christie or the choreographed butchery of Quentin Tarantino. Shakespeare's tragedies leave blood on the stage, and in Dostoevsky's There Would Be No Punishment If There Hadn't Been a Crime. In Crime and Punishment, former law student, I'm going to slaughter this name, but I believe it's Raskolnikov, commits murder and sets in train his own downfall. Murder in all its forms addresses unblinkingly the most fundamental question of human existence, the fact that we are going to die. So is everyone we know and love. But murder is the thing we all fear more than anything. Somehow we must learn to come to terms with that. And as a writer, I know another thing about murder. No matter how gruesome, it always makes a good story. With serial killers, those addicted to murder, there is another element. Serial killers are the ultimate outlaws. They step outside not just the law, but any human norms. They are fascinating because they are almost impossible to understand. Serial killers get such coverage both in the news and fiction that it is hard to believe that we are not all in imminent danger of slaughter. The FBI estimates that there are between 25 and 50 serial killers at large in the U.S. at any one time, which is shocking enough, but that means there is fewer than one serial killer for every 7 million people. The truth is, few people kill. We occasionally say we could kill someone, but that is usually hyperbole. Most of us can imagine what it might be like to be driven to a senseless act of violence in an unendurable situation. But to kill once is one thing. To kill over and over again is quite another. Nevertheless, the proven cases are staggering enough. Samuel Little had been arrested 26 times in 11 states for crimes including theft, assault, attempted essay, fraud, and attacks on government officials before he turned to murder. Derek Todd Lee had been killing people in Louisiana for a decade before he was apprehended. Randall Woodfield traveled along Interstate 5, which runs through Washington, Oregon, and California, robbing, R-wording, and killing maybe as many as 44 women and girls, while in England, Stephen Port preyed on... Oh, sorry. That was a terrible sentence. While in England, Stephen Port preyed on men he met through gay dating apps. They needed a period there, not a comma. Sorry. But what drives people who kill and kill again? The more they kill and get away with it, the more they keep wanting to kill. Experts say, murder is addictive, it seems. The other question is, are serial killers evil or are they mad? It is a question that can only be answered in individual cases. There is no general explanation. No matter how hard we study them, it is almost impossible to imagine ourselves in their shoes. Robert Ressler, a pioneer in psychological profiling at the FBI's Training Academy in Quantico, Virginia, who has interviewed dozens of serial killers, including John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Charles Manson, and Ted Bundy, says that the killings are a rush, usually bringing a sexual high the killers can relive repeatedly through memories. I've interviewed people in prison that get glassy-eyed just talking about their crimes because they get stimulated. Ressler says, when the urge comes to people like that, everybody's in danger. Though the United States is still seen as the home of serial killing, in India, Surinder Kohli and his employer, Moninder Singh Padner, were charged with kidnapping, R-wording, and killing up to 38 women and children. In the Ukraine, 19-year-olds Viktor Sayenko and Igor, I'm going to just say S, were given life sentences for a series of 21 random murders, and in Brazil, Tiago Henrique Gomes de Roca committed dozens of seemingly pointless murders, earning himself over 600 years of jail time. Serial killing is a worldwide phenomenon, and as much as criminologists and psychologists have tried to classify them, no two killers are alike. Each one is a unique case study. Sometimes their childhood holds a clue. In other cases, the killer has suffered a head injury that made some baffling change to their brain. Some believe that they are cleansing the world of sinners and they are going about God's work. They don't identify with their victims or feel any sympathy toward them, says FBI agent John Douglas. As they see it, they've been victims all their lives, dominated and controlled by other people. This is their chance to call the shots, to decide who lives or dies and how someone should die. Some are educationally subnormal, while others are highly intelligent, making them hard to track down and convict. Most are smart enough to target strangers they have no connection with. A study of 326 U.S. male serial killers between 1800 and 1995 concluded that 87% had killed at least one stranger, and 70% killed only strangers. The most prolific serial killers also tend to be the most organized. They methodically stalk their victims, looking for the best opportunity to strike when they will not be seen. Then they quickly dump the bodies somewhere remote. In these cases, the police just have to hope that, driven by hubris, they get careless. Although anyone can be targeted, victims of serial killers tend to be the most vulnerable in society. Children, prostitutes, and the elderly. Gay men are often at risk too, particularly in times or places where homosexuality is less acceptable. Berkeley psychologist Michael Evans says homosexuals are an easy population to get access to in some anonymous way. Chicago Police Sergeant Richard Sandberg puts it more succinctly: the gays are easy prey. Some of the villains in this book slipped into serial killing after they got away with a first one. Usually the impulse is sexual, and truly none of us are in our right minds when it comes to matters of the heart. Other motives include sadism or a lust for power over others. The serial murderer tends to kill not for love, money, or revenge, but just for the fun of it, because it makes him feel good. Often they have had an almost pitiably warped childhood. Cranial trauma and other brain damage during their youth is sometimes a factor too. As they grow up, they find themselves gripped by an overwhelming urge to step outside the law. It may begin with small acts of vandalism or theft, then burglary, progressing to R-wording, and finally murder. Clearly, some of the perpetrators are purely evil, and no excuses can be made for them. Others do seem to struggle with themselves. Many are relieved when they are finally caught, knowing that if left at large, they would continue killing. While studying serial killers gives us a powerful insight into the human condition, we must not forget their victims. Each one is a tragedy. Many are young and vulnerable, and all of them are ruthlessly deprived of the possibilities and pleasures of a fulfilling life simply for the gratification of someone who is clearly, by any measure, inadequate. But there is nothing to be done. Those who have been murdered cannot be revived. Then there are the families and friends of the victims to consider, who must go through the rest of their lives knowing that someone they loved has been taken from them. They must deal with the urge for revenge or somehow struggle with themselves to find a way to forgive. In most cases, I am sure that is impossible. Some must ask, how did they not see it coming? The parents of someone who kills, however blameless, must wonder whether it was something they did that sent their offspring down the road to murder. The children of killers even ask themselves whether they have inherited the murderous trait. The people in this book are of a different order. It is clear that once they had killed, they had to do it again. They got to enjoy it. Murder took over their lives, just the way crack cocaine, or crystal meth takes over their users' lives. The killers in this book are quite literally addicted to murder. Author Cimino. So that is the introduction, and I'm going to actually just kind of post the introduction by itself, and then I'll come back and we will get into a couple of the serial killers. So I will be back, and keep in mind when I do read their stories, I will not edit out any of the harsh words. I was trying to do that for the sake of the intro, even though I was saying other words, but I wasn't saying the R word, grape, as everyone refers to it as, but I will be utilizing the words uncut for the sake of who the people are and to let you know exactly what they did. So again, I will be back and we will dive into a couple of the serial killers. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and please comment below, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.